everybody's ready, let's proceed. Audit. What is audit? It's just an optional functionality within the Control EM which will allow you to record and store information about Control user activities. Now, I'm sure that regardless of whether you're a Control user or a Control admin, you've been asked certain questions like, what happened to this job? Was it modified? Or who modified it? Why was it modified? Or why was this job reran? So if you have auditing turned on, you'll have a better chance of being able to answer these type of questions. In addition to that, if your company has certain audit requirements, this functionality will get you a step closer, or even possibly meet those requirements. Now, what's annotation? For those of you who's rebooted a Windows server, you've probably seen this already, where you get a prompt, and you're required to specify notes about to justify why you're rebooting the machine. Well, Control M will be able to provide the same functionality, or at least similar functionality. And for both these functionalities, it's not an all or nothing switch. You can be very specific as to what you want to turn on. So you could just turn on like AJF or just the Control M desktop portion of the screen. As far as roles, for the most part, it's going to be a Control M admin's role to activate the application, at least the functionality. No additional licenses are required, and you can use the reporting facility to extract information about audit and annotation. Now we're almost heading over to the demo now, and for configuration, we will be doing a configuration of both the audit and annotation. I will show you how to turn it on through CCM. We're also going to be going through certain activities, external activities within EM. We're also going to be using the reporting facility to generate reports. And I will show you utilities that you can use for audit and annotation. So if everybody's ready, let's go ahead and proceed with the demo part. And for the demo part, I will be using version 8 of Enterprise Manager. So for those of you who are not quite familiar with version 8 yet, I will be using terms for version 8 for the moment, but we'll also be mentioning what the equivalent is for version 7. So right now, we are in the Configuration Manager. As you can see, it's similar to version 7, if not identical. There shouldn't be any changes between the two or differences. So in order for you to turn on audit and annotation, we will go to Tools, System Configuration, and System Parameters. We'll then go to Audit and Annotation. Now, even though this is version 8, there should be no difference between version 7. The two important buttons here are Enable Audit and Enable Annotation. This is a reminder, you won't be able to enable annotation without having to enable auditing first. So I could click this all day and it won't turn on. So for now, we'll just enable audit. I also mentioned earlier that you can be very specific as to what you want to track. There's different categories within the CCM or the audit and annotation window, and these are authentication. These are actions where you log in. Scheduling definitions is where you add, modify jobs in the planning panel, or what we call Control M Desktop in version 7. We also have the active network, which is the AJF. AJF get job information is viewing a sysout in version 7, or viewing an output on version 8, or maybe just doing a right-click log. Independent HIF entities, they are quantitative resources and control resources. Alert handling, I think everybody knows that. Account management, you have different accounts for CM for SAP, PeopleSoft, or just plain old passwords for the regular OSCM for the agent. Component operations, so if somebody has the right or privilege to recycle the GUI server, the GCS, and all the other components, this can be tracked. Configuration management, where you create new components through CCM. Control and security. Now, in the newer versions of Enterprise Manager, you are now able to create or turn on security on the Control M server. It's for those who are familiar with it, it's called CTM-Sec. Now, just as a reminder, we can only track things that are done within the GUI. So if you were to go to the Control M server and run CTM-Sec there, you won't be able to track it. Now, database maintenance. You can perform certain database maintenance within the Configuration Manager window. We can also track that. There's a switch here, and by default, which automatically does the cleanup for audit and annotation. Now, you can specify a number of days here, or you could just completely disable it. Now, bear in mind that this information will be stored in an EM database. So if you don't clean it up, you could potentially run into a situation here where your database is full. So this is optional. If you do opt to not automatically clean it up, we provide you a utility that will allow you to manually do this. You can run this utility in the EM server machine, and we'll go there right now and I'll show you the utility. The name of the utility is erase_audit_data. So you can just run it from the command line, as is. You'll be prompted for a date. And for now, I just want to remove everything in my audit information. So we have a clean slate to deal with, or at least to work with. I'll enter in today's date +1. And I'll show you why. You'll be prompted, and it says prior to the date that you specified. Well, if I just specify today's date, it's not going to delete it. So I just want to make sure it's clean. I'll hit yes. And for this, you will need to type in the DBO name, the database, which is AM user by default. And then you put in the password, and it's do its job. You can also run this utility in batch, where you don't have to be prompted. If you want more information about this utility, you can go to EM Utility Guide, and we provide you the syntax or format of how you want to run this utility. For now, we will enable cleanup. And also for this presentation, I just selected a few items here. We're just going to go scheduling definitions, active network, and alert handling. For now, I'm not going to enable annotation, so we'll now activate the changes. And as you can see, everything worked well. You don't have to recycle anything after you hit activate changes. So whatever modifications or implementations that you've done should be dynamic. So now we're going to be switching gears, and we're going to go to the workload automation panel. So this is what we call the planning panel in version 8. So for those who haven't seen version 8 yet, this would be equivalent to your Control M desktop. I pre-created 2 jobs here, and this one in particular is the job that we will be playing around with and modifying, so I can show you what happens. So right now we only have auditing turned on, or audit turned on. So we're going to check out this job. Checkout in V8 is similar to loading a table in version 7. So we can lock certain things. I will open the job, It's an OS job, and the command is bad. I know we want this job to fail, so that's what I'm doing right now. We'll just do a simple modification, and I will call it without annotation. For demo. We'll hit OK, and I will check it in. Now, for those who are only familiar with version 7, check-in is basically saving the job, writing the table, and uploading it to the control room server. That's the equivalent in version 7, all in one motion. Now that we've done that, we'll be ordering the job. And as you can see, nothing is really different from what it was earlier. And we see that we got an alert. So we go to alert panel, and sure enough, the job ended not okay. So one of the things that these control room users normally do is handle this alert. So we'll do so, and go to the monitoring panel. See, the job has been ordered. It ended okay, not okay, I'm sorry. So another thing that users usually do is force it okay. It was set okay, and maybe do a rerun. So far, things are not really that much different. But now I want to show you what happens when you turn on annotation. So we're going to head back to our configuration manager and enable annotation. And also, if you notice, this these check marks have been activated, but they were never really used because the main switch hasn't been turned on. So now that we've turned on the main switch, we'll activate changes. And everything was successful. Again, no no recycling of any components is required. We'll switch back over to our workload automation. We're going to go back to the planning panel. We're going to check out the workspace again, and we're going to modify it and put with annotation. So that's the modification that I did with this job. And I'll hit OK. And we didn't see a prompt. So that is fine because we haven't really saved the job. So now we're going to be doing a check-in. And now you see a prompt, just like we see in Windows. So we're going to remove everything here. And I want to show you something real quick. You'll see that the OK button is grayed out. So you're forced to specify justification of why you're performing that action. So I will put something in, check in, job for demo, modified job description. So I'll hit OK. This has been done. And we're going to go switch to our monitoring panel. So since we ran the job earlier without annotation, we should have an alert, or we have an alert here that the job ended not okay. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to handle job that ended not okay. And since we turned on alerts for our audit, so any action that you do within the alert panel, you will get a prompt. Handle alert. Job ended not okay. We're also going to be forcing to job, OK. Then the prompt pops up. Okay. The job on F. I'm going to do a rerun. So basically doing the same thing I did earlier and showing you the differences. Demo. Obviously, you'll be using certain standards for just demo purposes. I'm just putting in notes or at least annotation that's very simple. You for you guys might be using control request numbers or very specific information here. So we'll hit OK. So as far as the control M user's perspective, if you just turn on auditing, you don't really see any difference. But once you turn on auditing, you will see it. But what about the control M admin? Does he see a difference? So far, not yet. So we will be starting the reporting facility. And we will try to generate a report. I've pre-created a report called audit_demo. Now you will be able to create a template from the audit type template. And you need to make sure that you do pick an audit type template, and I'll show you why. So let's go start, or at least generate a report using audit type template. So the report title will be audit report. The author will be EM user, and this is, since it's for demo only, that's the description I gave it. I'll hit next. Now this is an important part of the reporting facility, or at least the auditing template. The number of things that you could do to filter what type of information. You obviously, in certain times, you don't want to run a report on everything. You might want to be very specific. So you could filter using the time, where you could specify a from date and a to date, and also, or specify the next number of days. For today, I'm not going to be using any of those options. And the audit type. These, if you notice, these are the same categories that we saw in the configuration manager. So you could be very specific or granular with what type of report you want to generate. So for example, if you want to just go active network, the audit operation filters will also change. The only things that are available for you to pick will be things that are associated with active network. So for now, we're not going to be using that since we only did a few things. We're going to skip that. And just like any reporting facility type reports, you could be filtering using either job name, table name. It's really up to you. We're not using that option for now. I've also selected certain fields. I want the report to show the date and time, the user name who performed the action, the job name, what type of operation was performed, the description on the annotation, and I want to show the original and the change to value. We'll proceed. I'm also grouping it by date and time. I'm not specifying anything on the summary by field, and I'm sorting it by date and time in ascending fashion. Once we've done that, we're ready to finish, and you will see the report. And as you can see, this is where we originally checked out the job. We added content, we checked in the workspace, and we updated the folder. We uploaded. This is the force OK. This is the handle this is the handle alert, and then a rerun. So far, there's no annotation fields, or at least information, because we never turned on annotation. But when you go back, or when you go down to the the lower portion of the screen, you will see that after we turn on annotation, you will see the information here now. So folks who will be running the report will see a little bit more information. At least you will get an idea of what was performed or why it was performed. Now, if you're not really satisfied with this reporting facility, you have a number of options to extract this information. You can actually export this data to different formats. The different formats that are supported are Excel, Word, Acrobat, HTML, or just a plain old text file. Now, we'll just use Excel, and we will be specifying the name of the output. We'll select that and save it. Yes, I want to replace it. So we now have an Excel spreadsheet called Audit, and I will open that up. Yes. Oh. Didn't create. Okay. We'll try to export that again. Save it. And as you can see, it looks a little bit readable, and the good thing about Excel is you'll be able to sort it however you want to sort it. Now that's one option of generating a report. Oh, before I forget, once you are satisfied with this report, you could actually, or this type of template where it generates all the information you want, you could perform a save as template and give it a name. And for this report, I call it audit underscore demo. Now we're going to be switching to version 8 again, to the Enterprise Manager. And I will show you another way of generating a report. You can actually create a job that's a reporting facility type job. And I pre-created a job for this presentation. If you notice, it's the job type, it says Control M Report. And you should be able to create one like this. And I will show you the details of this reporting facility type job. Run as is equivalent to version 7's owner field. So you specify the OS username that will be logging in, that we'll be using to log into the Enterprise Manager client machine. Now remember, it's the client. You will need to specify the EM account. By default, the database owner is EM user. And you specify the password, or you have the option to use a password file. On the server host, this is important because this what we want you to provide is the GUI server publish name. Now for some of you guys might have multiple GUI servers and they all have different logical names. Whatever the logical name that you want to use, that's what you specify for the server host. Now in the background, what the reporting facility does is run this utility, EM Report CLI. And this EM Report CLI resides on the client machine. And by default, this is the location of that utility. And you also specify the template name. That was the template when we that I used for the reporting facility earlier. So you need to make sure that you put in the extension .em.rpt because that is the format that we use when we save that template in the operating system. You also have an option to extract the file in different formats. For this one, we're using Excel. You'll also be able to select whatever type of format you want to extract it to, and obviously the name of the file. So we'll cancel it because I'm satisfied with that, and we will order this job. Okay, we get the annotation prompt for the report job or demo. This is completed. And I go to the monitoring panel, which is equivalent to the EM GUI in version 7. And the job ended okay. Now, another way of being able to run a report is using the EM report facility directly on the command line. And I will show you that the EM report CLI will require certain parameters, like the username, the password, obviously the published name of the GUI server, the name of the template, the output file type, and the name of the file that it's going to be output to. So what we're going to do now is just delete the one that we just created and run this utility. Oops. That ended successfully, and now we have a report here. You could also run this in batch mode. And if you want, or if you require more information about this utility, you will be able to go to the utilities guide, and it will give you all the parameters that are required for this utility. And that ends our demo for today, and we're going to be going back to the presentation. Now, for the review, what have we learned for today? For audit and annotation, basically allows you to record and track user activities. It forces users to specify a justification for their actions. We also learned that audit and annotation are stored, our information are stored in the EM database, and you have the option to manually, automatically clean it up or manually purge them using erase_audit_data. Information about this utility can be found on the utilities manual, and you could also run this in batch mode where you don't have to be prompted for a username, and the utilities manual will provide that information for you. We also went through the CCM and turned on or activated audit and annotation. You saw that there's a number of different categories. For more information about these categories, the admin guide will provide this information, and all you need to do is search for apply annotation for audit context, and it will get you to that page. The reports can also be generated a number of different ways. Through reporting facility manually using the audit type template. It's important that you use the audit type template because you won't have the other options if you don't use this. You can also use your EM report CLI. Information about this is in the utilities guide. And lastly, you can create a reporting facility type job. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of our presentation, and I thank you very much for attending. If you're interested in replaying this presentation or past presentations that you might have missed, please go to bmc.com/events/on-demand. And I also want to announce that our next webinar will be presented by Darrell Watley on August 14 for control and backup and recovery. Please follow us in Twitter, Facebook, and BMC communities. Go with the survey because we are very interested with what you have to say. And if you have any topics that you want us to discuss in the future, please do so. Thank you again,